Thanks for joining Career Q&A. This is the co-op panel. We'll be talking about what a co-op is, why students opt to co-op, and all the questions that come along with the process and experience. So I'm Lizzie, a career services career advisor, and I'm happy to be here with Jeff and Amanda today. Will introduce themselves in a moment, and they co-opt last semester, correct, in the fall of 2022. And so thank you for being here, and I'll have each of you introduce yourselves.
Amanda, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm currently a computer science major at the University of Maryland. I'm a junior, so I'm graduating in May 2024. And this fall, I worked at Snap, otherwise known as Snapchat. And I was remote, but my team was based out of Palo Alto in California.
And hi, my name is Jeff Tran. I just graduated this December, actually, also computer science, and I work for Amtrak in Washington, D.C.
Congrats on your graduation. So the first thing I really wanted to touch on is, how did you initially learn about what a co-op is and how it was different from an internship? And then one of you can feel free to define it for maybe some people who don't know yet.
I'm probably not the best to define it because in my mind, a co-op and an internship are still blurred. How I came to understand it during my college time was that a co-op was mostly during a semester, and especially for those who are in engineering, it could last multiple semesters, and you could continue your time with the company. But for me, I was only with Amtrak for one semester, and so I can't really speak to the multiple semesters aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I agree with that definition. And I think for me, the way I came to understand it was based off my friends' experiences. So friends in grades above me who had done co-ops and internships in the past. Yeah, I think that my take is that from the company perspective, it's often not too different, especially if they every season have a class of interns. Maybe they kind of see them as similar, but from your perspective as a student, you might be able to get course credit for a co-op. You also would be doing it off cycle. So instead of during the summer, you'd be doing it in the fall or the spring. So I think those are the main differences.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And amazing. So we have Noah joining us. Welcome. So we started, and Noah, if you could just introduce yourself, name, major, grad year, and where you worked last semester.
Sure. My name's Noah Zipin. I am a senior. I'm going to be graduating this summer. I'm going to take a summer class and be completed with my course through my graduation requirements. Last semester, I co-op with a startup who was just acquired by Johnson & Johnson. So it was a surgical robotics startup. We were developing a surgical robotics platform to compete with the Da Vinci system. And it was located in Santa Clara, California, which is the Silicon Valley area.
Great. And Noah, could you tell us how you see the difference between intern and co-op?
Sure, yeah. So I've had a couple internships in a couple different industries. So I worked in a research environment at the FDA. I've worked in an industrial product development environment, at Stanley Black & Decker. And at J&J, that was another industrial product development environment, but in the medtech space. One difference between co-op and an internship there's several differences. One of the most significant that I found is there are generally less co-ops than there are interns. So as a co-op, you have a lot more visibility to do really cool projects. So an example is at Black & Decker, I was kind of doing intern projects. So I was making fixtures and that kind of thing. At J&J, One, because I had that visibility, and also because of the length of time. The duration of my co-op was 6 months, or almost 6 months, versus a 3-month internship. I have like complete ownership of like whole projects that are like actually on the system, which is really cool. So yeah, so I guess that's two things, is like the one, you have more visibility just because there are less co-ops, you have more opportunity to connect with real engineers. And also you're there for a much longer period of time. So you have more opportunity to have more impactful projects that you can have like ownership of.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I want to clarify, just for any students who might be confused, how we kind of see it, that internships you can have over the summer, you can have part-time internships in the fall and the spring. But co-ops are really going to be those opportunities, kind of like Noah was saying, to dive in deeper into a company and be seen more so as, you know, a full-time employee than maybe an intern might for that semester, or you might get more responsibilities and really be kind of part of the team in a little bit of a different way than an intern might be. And it's important to know that, you know, a lot of co-ops do end up getting full-time offers, and interns do too. You can, you know, be a returning intern and get that offer too. But it's also great for students who are unsure about their track to get some field experience, and see if that industry is for them. And also for any students who might be struggling academically to just get re-inspired by the work that is more hands-on, to see why, you know, they're pushing for this degree in school. So we kind of see many benefits to co-ops that way. And you can absolutely take a whole semester off. You're working full time, you come back to school, and then you can alternate semesters of full-time work and full-time study. There's benefits with financials, so you get paid during that time. You can also travel, so you're not tied down to, you know, College Park. You can go anywhere. So lots of great benefits of co-ops. Did any of you have concerns about delaying graduation? Because that is one of the things that students get really nervous about in even considering the topic.
Yeah, I can start with this one. Yeah, so for me, I had planned out my like 4-year plan for the courses I was going to take every semester. And I realized that the way that it worked out, I only really needed to take classes for 7 semesters to finish all my degree requirements. So one option was I could stay and take additional classes, I could graduate early, or I could do a co-op during that semester. So yeah, I decided to do a co-op, and I talked about it with my advisor just to double check and make sure that I wasn't forgetting any classes in my schedule. But yeah, so for me, it happened to work out.
I think I can go next. So I was fortunate to come in with a sizable amount of credits from high school. I know that a lot of people are not necessarily as fortunate, and it's a little bit too late to go back and take AP credits. But what someone can do is learn to leverage. I think Noah said, you said that you were taking classes over the summer. That's actually excellent. I leveraged a winter class, and it was only like 3 weeks. And those additional credits helped me get to my graduation.
Great.
Yeah, and I do want to add that in the long run, a 4-month delay in your graduation versus having that huge block of experience, yeah, I mean, the co-op experience has opened like so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had. And having real industry experience and as close as you can be to a full-time engineer without having a degree is extremely valuable. So yeah, and Jeff, I'm the same boat as you. I did have some credits coming in, and I am leveraging those summer classes. But even if you don't have that situation, I would take the co-op every time, honestly. Yeah.
Perfect. So unanimously, it is worth a little delay, and possibly you won't even have to delay considering your situation. We do, of course, advise our students to talk to their academic advisors first before making a final decision. And something I forgot to mention was that we encourage our engineering students to kind of register for ENCO, which is the 0 credit course, while they're doing their co-op, so that scholarships can be put on pause, so that you can come back to campus housing. And so it's not necessarily like a requirement, but we do highly, highly encourage it because it also appears on your transcript and you kind of get credit for it that way too. So I'm curious if you want to share a little bit about your process with ENCO as well, and just, it's one survey. Was it too hard? Did we bother you too much?
Yeah, so I registered for ENCO while I was doing my co-op to keep my like scholarship intact and everything. And yeah, it was totally fine. It was a very like straightforward process. And then yeah, like Lizzie said, it was just one survey at the end of your internship just to talk about what you did. So yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple. And go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to add that about scholarships. So something that I learned was that a lot of UMD merit scholarships require you to take 30 credits. But if you register for ENCO, I think that someone should check me on this, but I don't think that you're required to do 15 credits the next semester. I think you're just down to, the requirement goes down to just being a full-time student. So if you're someone who is struggling to maintain a 30 credit semester and want to take a nice break in your education and want to go out and see the industry, having that co-op and then coming back, you might actually be free from that 15 credit a semester requirement. So that's something to consider as well.
We definitely encourage everyone to check in with their specific scholarship and their specific requirements for that. Okay. So the next thing I really wanted to ask is how you found your co-op positions. Where did you see it? C4E, a friend, career fair?
Yeah, so for me, this job was kind of a target for me for a couple seasons. So I actually applied 3 times, and like I think I applied fall 21, spring 22, or and then summer 22, and then fall. I don't know, it's all a blur because I studied abroad as well, like during that time. So yeah, but I found it on LinkedIn, and it was a very competitive internship. So one strategy that I used is that I actually reached out on LinkedIn to current co-ops or interns at the company. And what I found is that generally co-ops or interns are more responsive on LinkedIn than a full-time engineer or a manager or a recruiter can be. And they also probably have better insights on like how to structure your resume or how to structure your application to hit things that they're looking for. So in my third attempt, I did do that. I connected with 2 interns. I set up like 5-minute calls. I'm still really good friends with one of them. He's at Michigan State now. And yeah, so it was LinkedIn, and then just connecting, and then eventually got to interviews and had a long interview process. And yeah, was hired.
Amazing. I love a LinkedIn success story. That's great
Right.
networking. Well done.
I can go. Oh, okay. Someone once told me that for every $10,000 you want in salary, you have to dedicate at least a month to the job search. So I'm not sure. I'm still personally not sure if it's that linear, but that goes to show like how much work someone has to put in to go, how proactive you have to be to go and find a position like this. So for me, I met with Amtrak representatives at the ComSci Career Fair, and there are plenty of great career fairs all around the campus. If you're not eligible for the ComSci Career Fair, I know engineering has one too. And I just met with representatives there. I got their contact. And then throughout the following months, I applied and I kept in touch to see if I could get a very, coveted interview spot. And so once I went through that whole process, by the time I got my offer, I think I was at least 3 or 4 months into the process. And so I definitely recommend starting early. That's the number one thing. And also just keeping in touch with your connections like Noah did, and just, stay persistent.
Amazing. I love a good career fair success story.
Yeah, I also have a career fair story, although it also involves LinkedIn. So I attended Grace Hopper, which is a career fair for women in technology. And the year that I attended it, it was like virtual, but one of the Snapchat recruiters reached out to me on LinkedIn because she saw that I was attending. So that's kind of how I got in the Snap recruiting process. And then my offer was actually for like a summer internship position, but I already had taken another summer internship. So I just asked if I could push it to be a fall co-op, and yeah, that's how that happened.
So can I ask a follow-up question to that, Amanda? A lot of students get nervous when they have two opportunities in front of them and they don't want to lose out on this amazing opportunity that just came up, and they accepted something else, and maybe they're even more excited about the new thing that came up. So is there anything specific that you said to the recruiter at Snapchat when you received the summer internship and said, can we push this to the fall? Like, how did you go about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely recommend like if you have space and you're willing to do a co-op, definitely like doing one internship in the summer and one as a co-op is a great way to get just like more exposure to great opportunities. In terms of what I said, I think like in like the tech industry, it's not like too uncommon for people to push like summer internships to be like off-cycle internships. So if you know that the company you're talking to typically has like fall or spring interns, then it shouldn't be like a problem. You can just like ask them if you can move your offer. Yeah.
That's great feedback. So yeah, just knowing that it's more common than you might think, and that remembering that recruiters do this day in and day out and talk to so many people, and you should be your own advocate and ask for, what you need. So did you do, I think, Noah, you said did you do one or more than one co-op?
I've just done one co-op, but I've had like 3 other internship experiences also.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not uncommon to do more than one. Actually, a lot of people out in the valley were like on like a year or more kind of long stretch of co-oping, or sometimes they do on and off kind of thing.
Yeah. Just can you speak to, did you go about finding a particular co-op for a certain year of your schooling, or did you just keep applying until you found one? Or was it part of your plan to always do one, right before you graduated, Jeff, or, at this point, Amanda's?
Yeah, I can speak. I didn't have a set semester that I wanted to co-op, but I knew that if I did co-op, I wanted it to be at a place that I thought was worthwhile, because it is a very big investment of my time. But I applied this, spring 22. I didn't get it, and I opted to study abroad instead. And I didn't get it that summer, and I opted to take another internship. So it's kind of like opportunities come up, and that kind of thing. So I didn't have a super concrete plan. But yeah, I didn't. But it worked out because I am able to take those summer classes. And yeah, sorry.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I can go next. So I think for me, coming into college, I like didn't really know that I would do a co-op, but I heard about it from like upperclassmen friends, so I knew it was an option. And then yeah, like Lizzie mentioned, I kind of just had like 2 opportunities that I was really excited about. So I just decided that I wanted to do one in the summer and one in the fall. Yeah, I guess in terms of like timing for that, I think junior fall, which is when I did it, I think it was like an okay time to do it. But something that I realized later on is that like if I could go back, maybe I would choose to do a co-op in the spring, because so in the tech industry, like recruiting typically happens in the fall. So often you'll like sign your summer internship offer for the next summer in the fall. So if you're doing a fall co-op, you might not hear if you get a return offer until after you've signed your internship offer for the next summer. So if you do it in the spring, you might be able to like get an offer for like the next summer even earlier. So it's just like a thing that I learned, but yeah, either spring or fall should be fine.
Dollar advice.
I think when I came into college, I was really lost in that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so when I came into college as a freshman, I kind of said yes to everything. I was invited to the honors program for entrepreneurship. It was EIP back then, and EIP is gone now. But I was invited to EIP. I also wanted to do a second major in economics. And so I spoke to an economics advisor. But when COVID hit, everything was thrown into question, right? Like I had to reevaluate my goals, and my goal coming out of college was to be some sort of computer engineer or software developer. So when this co-op came around, and it was fall 2020, and I was invited to be to co-op with Northrop Grumman as a systems engineer, I kind of sacrificed EIP, and I said that this was a better trade-off. And I think that's something that we constantly evaluate when we're doing a co-op. Hey, do I want to push graduation, or do I want to edit my graduation plan to make room for this career choice? In the theme of cutting things off, when I was invited to co-op with US Bank for fall 2021, I had to cut off my second major, economics. So that's why I only graduated one major. But it fit in with my goal of, hey, I want to graduate to someone who is in the tech industry. And while econ was an interest of mine, it didn't really add up to that goal. And so I also sacrificed my econ degree for another co-op. And it's just this constant choices that one has to make. But towards the end, you have to sit down and think, hey, what do I want to come out of college doing? And so when I interned with US Bank, I got to intern as a PM. So I got to see the PM side, which as a software engineer now is really helpful to me because I get to see the product side. But yeah, just sit down with yourself and think about what you're trying to achieve. And that will answer a lot of questions for you.
That is so, so important. I'm so glad you're bringing that up. The editing piece, sometimes you cannot do it all, and you don't have to, and you can make the best choice for your career. And I really love that piece about self-reflection and where you want to go, because ultimately this degree is for your career. So, just doing this or that without having a plan of how it fits into where you want to be might not be the best approach. So that's really great advice. Speaking of editing and things like that, so were there any issues during co-oping? I don't know if you were involved with any student organizations. Were there interruptions or issues with your involvement with extracurriculars in terms of student clubs and kind of your social life or anything like that?
I can go first. So for co-ops, oftentimes a co-op is not expected to work late into the evening. And so, this good like work-life balance of 9 to 5 has been really helpful to me, because after 5, I can now, I was working in College Park remotely. So after 5, I can go and be a part of this student org that's, still welcome to me as someone who's, working and not really taking classes. And I don't have to worry about homework like everyone else is, or worry about this exam. So it's a nice balance. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a similar experience because I was also remote. So I was in College Park. So I still remained a part of clubs. I actually joined like even more clubs during my co-op semester because I had more free time. So yeah.
I definitely had a different experience. So for me, I studied abroad one semester, and then I lived in California the next semester. So I was basically gone from the university for a full year. Um, there's been a lot of changes in terms of the construction and the student body. So it's been some getting used to. One other trade-off that I kind of had to do is I was involved in research, and studying abroad and doing the co-op, I kind of had to put that on the back burner a little bit. So that's like similar to Jeff's situation with the economics degree. Part of that was because I was limited with my time and I was separate from the university, but also because I had that industry experience, I was kind of able to hone in my interest a little bit and say, maybe research isn't super for me. So yeah, learning in both ways.
That's great. And Noah, did you have any difficulty telling your research supervisor about your decision? I know sometimes people are hesitant about that too.
Yeah, always hard. And I'm still in the research lab Slack, and I still participate a little bit, but it definitely is less of a priority for me. And I think that's okay. It's a natural thing. Um, but yeah, there is some hesitancy, but it's all okay. It's worth it.
Okay. Were those conversations intimidating at all, or did all go well?
It depends on your relationship with your research advisor. Um, I have a pretty transparent relationship, so I didn't feel any kind of on edgeness, but yeah, it could exist.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy. Be brave. Again,
Right.
advocacy
Yep,
for
absolutely.
yourself. Yes. Um, so what would you say was your most valuable takeaway from your co-op experience?
One thing that is very foreign to especially first or second years in undergrad is kind of the work environment culture. I remember when I was a freshman, I went to the first career fair and I felt like very out of place. Um, and having industry experience really exposes you to the kinds of, um, yeah, just the kind of culture and how you should present yourself and kind of what people are looking for in your industry. Um, that is like extremely valuable. You can't really put a word to it, but yeah, I would summarize it as like kind of a work culture or work mindset that is extremely valuable coming out of your undergrad with already because you don't have to relearn that as a new hire, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with Noah. I feel like industry can have a lot of differences from school. So just getting that like internship co-op experience really like teaches you a lot about like how to act in the workplace. So prior to my co-op, I had done like internships, but I'm still really glad that I did my co-op because I think like just the more internship experience you get, the better you get at like working in industry. I learned a lot, but I guess if I had to pick one thing that I learned from from my co-op, it would be just like the importance of communication. So I'm like a computer science major, so a lot of what we do in school, I feel like, is very focused on like the technical concepts. But in industry, you're actually collaborating with like other software engineers and also like non-technical people. So you really learn like how to communicate what you're doing to different stakeholders, people who care about different things, and also just like as an intern, there's so much that you don't know. So having the ability to like speak up and ask questions and like really clearly identify what you don't know and what people can do to help you learn what you need is like a very key skill. So I think that's like what I learned in my co-op.
I think for me, my takeaway was to just get as many mentors as you possibly can. Um, Being in a co-op or an internship just gives you great exposure to other people. And like Amanda said, you can ask a bunch of questions that you might think are dumb, but people would be extremely happy to answer them for you. And so this is like a great time to ask every question you can, meet as many people as you can, and if you like them, ask them to be your mentor. I also want to add that being a co-op might come with more benefits than being an intern because you're there for longer. And so some companies have offered co-ops 401k plans or sometimes even health plans that you can subscribe to. One of my favorite benefits was the travel benefit at Amtrak, and I got to use that for a couple of months. So that was really fun. But yeah, get used to your benefits package. And because when you start working, you'll want to know when you start evaluating offers for yourself from different companies, you'll want to learn what those benefits mean and how they can better your life. That'll help you compare.
So many nuggets here. I really appreciate you sharing. It puts your degree into context. It teaches you what to look for in full-time offers. It helps you build relationships with mentors who can help you throughout your career. Amazing. So on the flip side of that, I want to ask about maybe some challenges, but I want to give you a few options. What maybe the hardest technical challenge, maybe an interpersonal challenge, whether it was supervisory or your team, or just any kind of hardship throughout your co-op. Can you speak to just one thing and how you coped with that?
One hardship for me is I completely relocated to a brand new place and I didn't know anyone. And it can be kind of isolating, especially at the beginning. And one thing that I think is a really good strategy is just kind of have the mindset that you should always initiate conversation or kind of break the ice. Both like both professionally and like personally. Like professionally, if you just kind of walk up to someone and see their monitor and say, "Hey, what are you working on?" They'll explain it to you, and they know you're a co-op. They kind of have they recognize that you don't have as much technical knowledge about the product, and you can really leverage that to learn so much if you just break the ice and ask a question. And the same thing if you like in my personal life, I would if you're just at the grocery store, you just kind of ask, hey, and you just make friends like that. It kind of snowballs.
Yeah, that's really important. It's just being open and being, open to connections everywhere you go, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
being proactive. I think I'm finding a theme of advocacy in these conversations. Thank you for sharing that. Anything to add, Jeff?
Yeah, I think similar to that. So like I definitely encountered a lot of technical challenges throughout my project, but I think like the overarching like biggest challenge was more of like a mindset thing. So at the beginning of my co-op, I was like really nervous, I think, to ask questions. So when I was like struggling with something, I would try for a really long time to like figure it out on my own. And then like, yeah, I just felt like I shouldn't like bother my mentor or like bother my teammates with questions. But yeah, I ended up realizing that like the people on my team were more than happy to answer my questions, and also that like asking questions just helped me to improve so much faster. So once I got over that fear of like asking questions, I think that helped me learn and grow so much faster, and just like really skyrocketed my like ability to be productive and move quickly on my project. So
Yeah, I actually have not much to add. Yeah, ask a bunch of questions. That's the only way you're going to learn.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other details that you can share about the structure of your co-op, how many team members you had, how many supervisors, and what students might expect just in terms of structure? Was there a certain program that was followed where you had to, have weekly meetings or anything like that? Well, what was the experience like in the company for you?
Yeah, I can take the lead on this one. And so when I interned at Amtrak, I really had like two primary points of contact for my project. And honestly, I think that might have been a mistake on my part. It was remote, and so I didn't get to meet many people, in person. But what I should have done was I should have found out all those people around those two mentors in their org, and I should have reached out to everyone, at least give an introduction, and be like, "Hey, I'm an intern. Ask me, let me ask you what you're working on." And so being isolated to just a couple of people that I was working with kind of just like put me in a corner, and it wasn't as engaging as I wanted to be. So coming out of that, I know that, I should have been a little bit more proactive. Yeah,
Thanks for your honesty in that. Yeah. Lessons learned.
yeah, for me, so in terms of the like structure of the internship program, so like as an intern, I was assigned like a mentor. I also had like a broader team and a team manager. So I worked most closely with my mentor because he was most familiar with my project, but also like sometimes we work with my other team members, sometimes like other collaborators outside of my team. And then my project had like customers. So sometimes I'd also work with those like internal customers as well. Yeah, and then I was also remote, but yeah, like I tried to like schedule like Zoom calls with like other interns and like other members of my team just to make sure I was like able to still get to know people and like communicate well.
Yeah, yeah. This question definitely depends on what industry you're in and the kind of company you're at. Personally, each kind of subsystem of the robotic platform had its own team. It had an electrical team and a mechanical team. So I was on the mechanical team for one subsystem, and I had a direct manager, and I was just working with the other engineers on my team. Um, on projects, and I had ownership of projects. I also was really interested in this other subsystem, so I just started asking questions to them, and I actually got a project with them as well, and I am still connected with those engineers. They're super cool. I was also president of the Intern and Co-op Association at the J&J robotics site. So I kind of organized like social events and some lunch and learns with some industry experts. And yeah, so that was really cool. There were two locations for the company. One was in Redwood City, one was in Santa Clara, and we kind of like collaborated across there. We went on some hikes. It was pretty cool.
That's great. And were there other co-ops? Just thinking of this now, were there other co-ops, or were you the only co-op in your company or on your team? Did you have any engagement with other students?
Yeah, personally, I was the only co-op on my direct team, but in R&D, there were two other co-ops, and there were other co-ops on systems integration, and there were other co-ops working on a different product at the Redwood City location. So we kind of all collaborated, but there were very few of us. There were maybe 10 or 15 of us in the whole like robotics division. Some are interns. I think there's generally like 30 or 40 just in R&D. So yeah, but it's really important to connect with other co-ops because honestly, because they're your age, you learn the most from them in some ways.
Yeah, it's a good support network, I imagine. All right. I'll next have you share, were you able to negotiate your salaries for your co-ops? Or what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I can go first. So for me, my company, Snapchat, they have a pretty like established intern program, so they don't negotiate intern salary. So based on my experience, typically like for larger companies like that, that have had very established internship programs, maybe they are less willing to, but I think it's always okay to ask, but yeah, just like be aware. I haven't had success with that.
Yeah, can confirm. I was not able to negotiate salary.
Yeah, I also wasn't because Johnson Johnson, they basically had a blanket co-op salary based on how many semesters you had left. So even though I was living in Santa Clara, I'd make, if I was interning in New Brunswick at their headquarters, I'd make the same salary, which was amazing. But yeah, good experience, right?
Yeah. Well, we want to normalize, what it's like and what students can expect. So thank you for sharing that openly. And I guess this question for Noah, kind of for you, but Jeff and Amanda chip in. I don't know if you were on campus or not. Was finding housing difficult?
It kind of was. I actually worked with the um the hiring staff to introduce housing for interns for the next round of the cohort of interns because I didn't have that opportunity. So I actually lived in an Airbnb for 6 months almost in Santa Clara, which was pretty cool. And actually it was actually like a house that was designed for co-ops. So it was called, the name of the Airbnb was Engineer's Paradise. So I actually made a ton of connections in that house. And yeah, still talk to them. I talked to one guy yesterday. So yeah, it worked out, but it was difficult finding the housing.
Yeah, this past summer I had to find housing in Seattle for about 3 months. And Yeah, it was probably one of the most difficult things I had to do in my whole life. But don't let that stop you from doing a co-op. There are good strategies to finding housing. I was really close to I was really close to submitting actually a confirmation for an Airbnb when somebody had back out to me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm leaving this house." They were a grad student and they were also going to intern in California, so I was going to take over their room in a house in Seattle. What I did learn from that is start early and reach out to everyone that you can on Facebook. Search Airbnb, search for housing listings everywhere, and it'll happen. You know, you'll find a place, but you have to work pretty hard for it.
Yeah, subletting, Airbnb. We do have some resources on our website for anyone who doesn't know. We do provide some starting points. And it's good to know that it's possible, just keeping at it. And I want to wrap up, but can you share something you're most proud of from your co-op? Like something that you did that you're most proud of during your time.
I'm kind of most proud of just doing it. It was kind of like an adventure kind of thing. Just did it. And it was a goal for me to really make the most of my time. So on weekends, I tried to go on a lot of trips. So I like went to Yosemite, did Big Sur. I went to um yeah, a bunch of other hiking places. Yeah. So every weekend I was active. I had my housemates and other co-ops. We went on hikes and yeah, just really trying to make the most of my time and then having that industry experience. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm just proud of like my project that I worked on, just like completing my project, and I got really good feedback at the end from like my mentor, my manager, and the customers that we were working with. So that was really cool. And then just everything I learned, both from like a technical standpoint and also in terms of like soft skills and communication.
Yeah, and looking back, I never regretted taking this co-op. I don't regret any of the trades that I made, and I think that moving in the right direction in life was probably something to look back on and smile about. So yeah.
That's awesome. So did any of your co-ops, do you think that I know Jeff, you mentioned you accepted a position with a different company, but are any of you considering full-time roles with your companies? Or, have you heard of that happening with other co-ops that you know?
Yeah, I can go first. So I still have another year before I graduate. So I had like another summer internship. So I'm interning at a different company this summer. I definitely would love to like potentially return to Snapchat for a full-time role because I had a really great experience. But if I do want to do that, I would have to like apply again. So yeah, maybe like interning there could like speed up the process or something. But yeah, I know that like people and like seniors who do co-ops can sometimes get like full-time return offers.
Yeah, co-oping is probably the best gateway to full-time hire. So at the end of my co-op, it was definitely a goal for me to start those conversations. So I had a bunch of meetings with HR people and engineering directors about full-time hires. Um, but they didn't have any open recs. And then actually maybe 2 months after I left my co-op, they had a big layoff kind of round, which was pretty devastating. So that's why I didn't get the full-time hire. Fortunately, I do have another full-time role. I'll be going to SpaceX, which is pretty cool. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the last couple questions are, would you recommend co-ops to other students / what advice would you have for them? And then where should students reach out to you or, if you're willing to answer their questions?
Yeah, I can go first. So yes, definitely take the co-op. Definitely take the co-op if you're in a boat where you don't really know where you're headed and you want some clear guidance. Definitely take the co-op if you do know where you're headed and it puts you in the right direction. or definitely take the co-op if you're between those two boats and you just want to see something new. I absolutely loved my time as a co-op at all the places that I went. I met a lot of great people. And even though it pushed my even though it, shifted my graduation timeline a little, it was absolutely worth it. So definitely do take the co-op. Oh, and also you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think I'm pretty easy to find.
Oh.
You can go.
Okay. Yeah, I'd echo all that. I think this was brought up before, but just make sure to use your co-op time to really like establish connections, both with the other interns and the full-timers at the company. You never know when your paths will cross again. So yeah, try not to just stay confined to like your own like team or the people you directly work with, but try to really branch out and like meet new people. Yeah, and then you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, if you just type in my name, I think I should pop up.
Yep, well said. Not a whole lot to add. Yeah, LinkedIn, search the name. I'll be happy to answer any questions or connect you to anyone. Building the network as a co-op is a huge benefit. So we probably all have wider networks than an average undergrad. So yeah, definitely reach out and leverage those networks.
Amazing. I know that it's important to keep those connections. I hope you keep them going. You've had these great experiences. So, like those articles and posts that your colleagues were making, so that you have those well into your future. And thank you so much for sharing everything about co-ops and how you've been leveraging your experiences for your careers. Thanks for being on this panel. We really appreciate your input and insight. And we'll look forward to seeing all the amazing work that you keep doing in these industries. So we'll see you soon. Thank you.